I'm Bill McCaffray from Seattle, Washington. Sorry, we'll start over one more time. Bill McCaffray, grew up in Seattle, Washington, now live in San Diego, California. I am the owner of Alliance Multimedia. So in Seattle in the 90s, wakeboarding was this totally new thing. So every time we went out, we felt like we were creating something new for the sport. Like we were doing a move that had never been done before. I grew up on Lake Sammamish with Greg Nelson, and we rode together and we're just trying to make the sport look as cool as we could. Really influenced by snowboarding and that lifestyle and that style of riding. We ended up coming to Surf Expo in like 1992. It was our first trip to Orlando, which we knew there was all the guys riding down here, Byerly, CC Roberts, and the whole clan around Orlando. And there was kind of a division at the time. Like we really wanted to represent the sport as a board sport, it's snowboarding. And Orlando had this kind of vibe that was maybe a little more like from the water ski industry. So we were working really hard to establish Seattle as its own entity. The reality is on the West Coast, it gets cold in the winter and you can't ride all year. So you've got to come to Orlando and be part of the center of the sport in order to ride year round. And we figured that out and ended up spending 2 to 3 months a year down here because that's the only way you could progress through the winter. One of the things for me that was so interesting is whenever we came to Orlando is to see the scene, like the social scene, the downtown scene, like Orange Avenue in downtown Orlando was like this crazy party every night. And wakeboarders were like rock stars. It was insane. Kobe Mikasic at the time, Chris Bischoff, all the guys. And you saw the younger generation come along like Parks Bonifay, and it was nuts. And like the guys that lived here literally had groupies moving to town so they could be part of the scene. It was pretty freaking crazy at the time. So one of the big things about Orlando is that there's a lake. You throw a rock in any direction, you're gonna hit a lake. And so on each of those lakes was a kid or a pro that was an avid wakeboarder. So you could always ride in Orlando. On the West Coast, particularly in California now, you got to trailer a boat, put it in the water. It takes hours to do that, whereas in Orlando, you just run to your buddy's house, boat's on the dock, and you're out. I think that accessibility of the sport, accessibility of boats in calm water, was really what drove the progression of wakeboarding for literally the last 30 years. So to double ups. So in the 90s, wakes weren't that big. All the boats we were using were designed for water skiing. So they were trying to make the wakes small and flat. So we started putting weight and people in them, and we get the biggest wakes we could out of them, but they still weren't very big. So when the double up became prominent, that was the way everybody learned a new trick. And for parks now, some 30 years later, to still be running the double or nothing, supported by Red Bull, it really highlights the fact that the double up is a huge part of the evolution of the sport. Literally every new move for the first 20 years was created or done on the double up. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this double or nothing contest is the generations that you have here. You've got legends like Parks and Danny. You've got the guys like Gunther, who's kind of at the top of the sport right now. And then you've got like a bunch of these Groms on their way up, the Luca kids and the Sam Brown, and Thomas Herman, who are like just 18 years old. All these kids just moved to town and they're invited here. So it'd be really interesting to see how the older guys influence the younger guys and actually who takes this event out. Literally, Danny could win this thing, Gunther could win this thing, Sam Brown could win this thing.